Hello, this is Elizabeth Naylor with Ebenezer Wellness, and today our Ask Anything webinar, we're going to start off with the topic of the role of food and our diet in our with our immune system. So I love this book, The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. In fact, he's written this book. He's written In Defense of Food. He's written a book called Food Rules, Rules. They're all really practical and interesting. He's a great writer. In fact, that he is a writer and an investigative journalist, not a nutritionist, and so his writing is much more readable and enjoyable than mine in a lot of ways. And he's really a fabulous resource. And he says eat food, not too much, mostly plants, and I think that really boils it down. When you say mostly plants, also some good protein and fat, really very little carbs, no refined carbs. That could really boil down the whole thing. But for all of us who live in the real world, what does that really look like? Part of the problem with our carbs in our diet, and the reason that you hear people talking negatively about them, including me, is that refined carbs turn into sugar and create inflammation in our system. I just heard someone talking today. It was on a news advertisement infomercial thing at my gym. One of the trainers was talking about teenagers and acne, and they were saying, guys, they were talking about guy health, and they got to stay away from the sugar because it creates inflammation in your body. It's going to cause more breakouts. Okay, that starts from when you're a very little child all the way through your entire life, and what the actual immune response is inflammation. It makes your blood sugar go up, and then typically it'll drop low, and in that point of dropping low you just crave more refined carbs, and so it becomes this endless cycle of refined carbs. Really everything, 99% of what we think about as bread, pastries, muffins, pasta, those things are all refined carbs. There are very few non-refined carbs. And so what I would say to you is those are things that are truly whole grain. And truly whole grain looks very different than what we think of as whole grain. So whole grains here, this is quinoa. It's the top right hand corner is like a quinoa salad. Carbs, when we talk about redefining carbs, legumes, beans have carbs in them. Nuts and seeds have carbs in them. Of course, vegetables and fruit have carbs. And so when you think about healthier carbs, these are healthier carb choices. All of these other foods, while we really find them tasty and they're very accessible, they are really damaging your immune system when you eat too much of them. And when I say too much of them, I mean when you hardly eat any of them. And so I would just, if you really want to work on your diet to support your immune system, I would start here in the winter, as we're moving into fall and winter, thinking about how can I move towards these redefining my carb intake to these healthier carbs so that I don't have that level of inflammation going on in my body, which is going to predispose me to a problem with my immune system. As far as proteins go, when I talk about adding more protein in your diet, having protein at every meal, having protein that is healthy, I do not necessarily mean these foods. So, just so anything that's deep fried, first of all, has trans fats. It's going to have bad fats. Anything that is purchased from a fast food restaurant, by and large, is going to be large industrially prepared beef or chicken, and those have their own problems. And if those of you who are members, you can go look at avoiding the big four, number 3, I believe it is, where we talk about avoiding bad things in our food and our diet. And you'll see why some of these things are bad. Red meat, this huge T-bone steak you see here, is not necessarily bad for you, but I will tell you that industrial beef is very, very different from grass-fed beef. It is a different chemical product. And the kinds of oils, the kinds of fats that you find in industrial beef versus grass fed beef, very different. Grass fed beef is much healthier for you. And so as you redefine protein, you'll see grass fed beef is on the list. I'm certainly not against beef for most people, but it's a different kind of beef. And of course, remember, we get great protein from eggs and beans and whole grains and nuts and seeds as well. So it doesn't always have to be meat. But I myself eat meat. I try to eat fish several times a week, and those things are important for you because the protein actually supports your immune system because it supports reducing that inflammation in your body as long as you're eating healthy protein. And fats, we're going to talk about fats in a minute. I've already mentioned partially hydrogenated vegetable oil and hydrogenated oils. Those are not great. All of these products have that in there. Canola oil is not hydrogenated oils, but canola oil is a junk oil. And so I would really encourage you to look at what you have in your pantry, look at what you have in your refrigerator, and get rid of some of that stuff for replacing it with healthier oils, because oils also impact our cell membranes throughout your body. It impacts your cell membrane health, and it's very, very important to have healthy oils in your diet. I put here, we're missing grapeseed oil. I don't have a picture of that there, but grapeseed oil is very easy to cook with. You can cook with it at a higher temperature, and it really doesn't add a flavor. So if you use canola oil because it doesn't really have a flavor, then grapeseed oil is a great substitute. But any of these oils are going to be good. If you bake at all and you want to use shortening, the pie crust, cookies, cakes, anything like that, biscuits, those types of things that you might make occasionally. A better, much healthier shortening is the Spectrum Organic. It's actually red palm oil. And if you go anywhere outside of the United States, you will not see this laundry list of bad fats on a label. You won't see partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated oils. What you will see is it'll list red palm oil on baked goods in the store, and that's because manufacturers are not allowed, food manufacturers are not allowed to use hydrogenated oils at all in countries outside of the United States. Now, our labeling changed a little bit a couple of years ago, but there's still a loophole, and there still are hydrogenated oils in our food. So, redefining your fats. And some people call this the Mediterranean diet, and that's a great term for what this is because it's a pretty good general place to start for most people. Okay? And so the principles I just went through, carbs, proteins, fats, those are kind of the guiding principles. You'll see here we want more of your plate to be vegetables, a significant portion to be proteins and fats, and then legumes and whole grains to really be the smallest portion. If you think about that, then what you'll remember is, that this is a good way to eat for your immune system.